All right, you clicked it.
It's clicked.
Yeah, doo doo right now.
Right
That's
now.
our new theme music. Doo doo right now.
Yeah.
Hey,
how's it going?
How are you, Todd?
I had a pretty good week. It was a pretty good week of just like work. I got some good work done this week, so I feel good.
I got to give a shout out. I'm repping merch. This is the Twin Cities, marathon. This would be the Twin Cities Marathon weekend. I would normally be heavily involved in doing like some networking stuff and helping, or having done some pre-work. Instead, I was volunteering over there the other day, and it was just like a ghost town, which shows you, like, they're sending out like virtual packets to people, and people are still trying to do runs this weekend, and they put out, like, you can do your own independent things, but it's just an example of like the disruption that we're facing. It's a micro example of the disruption we're facing. This amazing thing that brings people together around health and fitness, and this amazing like community of people who do the whole weekend of family events and the 10 mile and the 26-2, and it's all canceled this year. And so I guess my ask of everyone is go volunteer, reach out to, or support a nonprofit.
I like it.
So give of your time, give of your treasure, give of something, go give. It's our Microsoft's month of give, right? So just, like, make it about something.
I love where you're at. And just to kind of pile on, like, I don't know. I've been trying to just be kinder in everyday interactions, and just, even if it's, I don't know, getting coffee or whatever, just,
it doesn't matter. Just be
kind.
Be kind. Yeah.
Make someone's day.
Yeah. So anyway, speaking of what do you? I got a little bit of Teams, a little bit of security, a super awesome buried in the SharePoint roadmap message center announcement. And that's and some other SharePoint updates, some Teams updates, a security white paper about attack vectors and historical analytics. I got that kind of stuff. What do you got?
Cool. So actually, I've got some Power Platform. I've got some Power Platform meets Pro Dev and some Power BI AR.
All right, you're up first. Hit it.
But before we get started, let's wish Excel happy birthday. Oh. Excel is 35 years old. I learned.
Seriously?
That's amazing. And I would argue, as far as the singular most important piece of software, if you could pick one, that's like impossible, right? But like, it's got to be Excel, not SAP, not any of that. It's got to be Excel, don't you think?
It's highly approachable. It has transformed everything from budgets to party planning to projects.
And I'm going to be talking about in 2020, right?
No, I understand. I'm saying it's
disappeared right now. Like, I don't think the world would kind of proceed very well for a while. I don't know. All
right. But anyway, if you have one, tweet Todd if you think you got an app that's been more societally impactful at a business and, within the realm of it. It's like, don't give me TikTok or Twitter. Yeah. Like, give me something. Give me something that's not news related or content distribution. Give me a substantive app that's better than Excel. Hit us up.
It's just kind of funny to think, like, kind of age myself. I was in kindergarten when Excel came out. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, you're not making me feel any younger. You need to get going on your topic. I'm older than you are. Just keep going.
Well, hey man, we're all getting older. All right, DLP, Power Platform. Here's some cool new stuff. So we continue to make it easier and easier in the Power Platform Admin Center. One of the things that we've done is added the ability to block connectors, which is probably good. And what we call out too, not all of them. We're not going to let you block some core things like approvals, because you know what? I mean, if you're blocking approvals, like, just maybe you shouldn't be using Power Platform. I don't know.
I was going to say, it's time for a different service.
Right, exactly. Like, that's cool.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, so being able to block them, which makes sense. We've one of the most useful Swiss Army knife connectors that we've had in the service from the beginning is HTTP, right? Webhooks, HTTP callouts, those kinds of things. So being able to classify those in a more meaningful way as well is good. So take a look at that. If you are administering the Power Platform in your organization, we continue to enhance the DLP capabilities there. So that's good stuff. And I just can't help myself anytime I see a time zone thing to call it out. Like, I have this sick fascination with time zones.
Nice.
The difficulty around time zones.
Yeah, you and I have been talking about that for years. Like, it was one of the first lessons you ever trained me on, was the timetables and the dangers and benefits and
So
for a while, I was so bad at it. I turned on the automatic time until automatic time just never gave me the lens I wanted, and then I had to actually sit down with Todd and learn about time.
Yeah, you're talking about like Power BI, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. They had they released this auto feature. I'm like, oh, that'll totally solve my problem, and
right.
it guessed, but it never guessed the way I wanted to.
Right, exactly. But I think this just speaks to the difficulty of time zones. So we're actually deprecating some of the things inside Power Platform around time zone rules. So if you were dealing with time zones, this is important for you to note that we're deprecating, and we're actually, I think this makes sense. We are, where does this call this out? Going forward, Microsoft will ship the changes as part of Windows updates, right? So we are going to rely on the way Windows handles time zones. A lot of engineering and a lot of work goes into making sure that's as good as it can be. So I think that's pretty smart of the Power Platform to basically piggyback on top of the logic that's built into Windows.
I had never understood the geopolitical dimensions of time zone until my first real commercial-facing software application, because there's a lot of, like, the label on time is as important as the time zone itself. So
I mean, it's a very, very human construct.
It is. It's a really important one.
Oh yeah, for sure. Anyway, I had a conversation. I don't know what it is with me in time zones. Is there a book on time zones? Like, I want to read it if there is. I should go look. I was asking my daughter, like, why she thinks they exist, and we basically got down to, like, think about trains. It's like, when did you have to care what time it was somewhere else, right?
You ever been up to Greenwich? If you go to England, go to Greenwich. You can stand on and you can see that the museum where they have the history of time. Yeah. It's not technology at all, but you're watching this, so you're stuck with us. So or not, you can just hang up. Please don't. They have the whole nature of the evolution of clocks at sea, and I mean, it is a fascinating example of, like, the evolution of time, something we now take for granted. There's time servers and time automatically updates magically for everything, but that was,
I think, time
recent human history.
Fascinating thing.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Wow. Deep thoughts from Doug and Todd.
Hey, wait a minute. Can you go back to your first one?
I can't. The DLP thing?
Yeah. So okay, so we kind of skipped over my favorite thing on that page, which is the HTTP connector parity.
Yeah, I mentioned it.
I know, but go down a little bit. Like, there's some guidance, like, right there on that stuff, right? So that's the go do, is to go to this and read that. Like, you don't, most of my security and DLP people or the admins who own it are not having yet thoughtful discussions, having seen what they can offer backwards to honor the DLP policies. It's still over in the citizen developer community. So this is like a security go do. Like, you mentioned it, but I just want to say, there's the action item. Like, go click on that.
I love it. And I have some more prescriptive guidance is great, and we have some more that's even meatier, like, here in a minute. So I can't wait to do that. And by the way, we have Christopher and Michelle in the chat weighing in on the most important piece of software. Christopher's SharePoint, man, hard to argue. And Michelle says OneNote. I think OneNote is right up there too, especially in my life. Like, man, I could not live without one. Well, I mean,
I'm still uploading Excel. I'm not moving on. I'm being stubborn.
No, I'm with you. I haven't shifted. I think Christopher and Michelle, great votes. There's no wrong answer, right? But, like, I think SharePoint
except for those. I'm just kidding.
Hey, you would not be a good politician.
No.
Actually, you would be. So
maybe.
Anyway, moving on.
I'm not going there. If you've been watching this week, maybe I would be a good one. Right. So there we go.
All right. So here's the prescriptive guidance I just promised. So this is the CAT team. So customer advisory team. There's a Power CAT team. And this is all around architecture guidance of the Power Platform. So you can see here, building better performing, easier to scale.
Did they make themselves a logo with a cat paw? Okay, never mind.
Oh my
Move
gosh,
on.
I didn't even notice that. That's brilliant, folks. Nicely done, man. That's wonderful. I bet whoever made that is super happy with you right now. That you.
I'm gonna, like, make a T-shirt or something. Just
that's great. That's awesome.
Stickers.
That's great. I love.
Are you a Power Cat?
That's a good logo. Okay. But yeah, seriously, this is good stuff, because and by the way, like, I think in the years past we've been conjecturing, is there this new type of developer that's going to emerge, and or not emerge, because this person's been around for a while, but really kind of become codified in a real roles, and it's no longer conjecture, it's happening. Right?
Yep. The VBA, the Skunkworks VBA and Access developers have finally found their platform and their home, and it's governed, it's managed, it's curated, it's preservable. It's awesome. and it's going to keep getting better.
And here's some guidance around this. So this is I think when you know something has reached a level of maturity, when there's this strong, clear, widely available guidance that has good thought put into it, good meaty thought, and years of experience behind it. That's what this is. So bookmark this, read it. This will evolve over time, most certainly. So check this out. This is great. All right. So a couple things here around where the pro dev meets the Power Platform dev. I think we maybe mentioned this last week because this was something that came out of Ignite, the GitHub Actions for Power Platform. We've talked before about DevOps in using Azure DevOps, but GitHub Actions is going to continue to get better very quickly, right? So this is where the Power Platform team is providing GitHub Actions. So if you are putting your source control, have your CI/CD pipelines, again, we were talking about CI/CD before the show started, and you do that in GitHub, you can now use Power Platform to work with your GitHub. So this is awesome. Really love this, and there's some good. Here we go. Here's some good documentation around what is in these actions, how they work, how to get started. So the documentation is there. Go check it out. Awesome stuff. I loved this one. This one is awesome. So if you're using Azure API Management, so real quick for those that aren't, this isn't your bailiwick. So what is API Management? Why do you need it? API Management, lowercase, is putting management in front of APIs around things like security, throttling, key management, those kinds of things. Scaling, so
and an abstraction, so you can upgrade, replace.
Yes,
and,
well, think about like Microsoft Graph, right? There's all kinds of. Can you imagine the number of APIs that are behind the singular Microsoft Graph API?
I don't know. Yeah,
it's more than one. It's more than two, right? It's a lot. But
which is why Graph APIs are traversable, right? I mean, it's like you have these URL hives to them. They're readable. So
yep. So API management, Azure API Management, for example, could sit in front of a plethora of APIs and provide you a singular experience that's securable, scalable, blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. So what we've done here is, this is so cool, right? So notice this GIF right here is someone inside of Azure that actually goes and says, I want to publish my organizational API to the Power Platform, right? So for the longest time, you've been able to call APIs from Power Platform, whether Power Automate, Power Apps, and you've been able to use like the, oh my gosh, I'm having a senior moment here, but the schema, right, to help me out here, man. The schemas that are of the APIs to register and call them, right? So
you're talking about like a hook?
It's really easy to organizationally publish those APIs here. So this is good stuff.
You remember when there was like UDMI and WSDL and all the web services, description language stuff, and we've come so far from just the easy dynamic consumption to all these old,
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. And if someone in the chat remembers the word that's escaping me, let me know. I feel embarrassed that I can't remember this, but that's just what happens. So last but not least, this is all. I mean, this is just a fun one, and this is another one that was kind of announced at Ignite. HoloLens 2 app for Power BI. So this is actually kind of cool. So HoloLens 2 gives you.
All right. So I did not go into Do Not Disturb mode, which is shame on me. But Brian just responded that you're looking for custom connector.
Yes, but there's a specific name for the way that you describe the schema of an API in a custom connector. It's a format, and I'm just like, it's escaping me.
Yeah, all right, we'll move on. Hey, look at that.
Yeah. So hey, look at that HoloLens. HoloLens 2 gives you a much more natural way to interact with virtual objects. So being able to grab your report, move it around, pin it, have it remember where it goes, being able to switch between pages. So this is really actually pretty cool. So if you're in an environment where you actually need to interact with a lot of different data and applications.
All right. Round 2, Swagger definition.
Swagger, thank you, Swagger.
Thank you, Brian.
That.
Right, so you can see Brian's tiny head peeking over the scraped screen trim, right? Because I forgot to go in Do Not Disturb mode. Shame on me. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. So anyway, this is rather fun. So if you happen to have your hands on a HoloLens 2, which I, by the way, still do not, one of my folks on my team has access to one that we got in the MTC in St. Louis, and I have yet to put my hands on one. So
I have.
Yeah.
Very, very, very impressive.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Broader field of view, much more natural interaction, speed of hologram renderings better. Like, and I liked the old one, so enough to buy one, right? So so I've been playing with HoloLens. I think it's an amazing tool, but you can see the hand gesture stuff, and it's gotten much better. So you don't have to do you can still do the little click gestures and stuff, but you can do this virtual. The pinch and air tap and all that stuff, and but I think they just got much more humanistic about it.
For sure.
Yeah, very good. Very, very. It's just great work.
Well, that's all I got, bud. What do you got this week?
All right. So, all right. Well, so I was so I got to produce my own stuff. So I got to shrink Todd down. Talk amongst yourself. I was just telling Todd beforehand. I finally ordered a Stream Deck so I can macro this, right? So I don't have to be like clicking on different
stuff. That's when you
know
you're serious. You get a stream.
Different stuff, and is that when you know you're serious?
I think so.
As though we're not quite serious yet.
You buy the like $1,000 DSLR camera.
Right? Fair. I am simply getting myself. I'm trying to get myself, like modern workplace architect formerly, right? So how do I get myself into do not disturb, and make sure everything's closed down? All right, we appear to be good. I'm just saying, otherwise Brian's going to spam me and make fun of me, and I don't want to be that guy. Okay, here we go. So. I got first up. Let's do a little teams, shall we? Because it's teams. I skipped teams last week, so we're gonna do a little teams this week.
Time to bring it back.
There was some teams performance update, right? For it, offline support in the desktop, improved desktop launch time. And by the way, have you switched networks recently between organizations? I've been doing volunteer work for the Twin Cities Marathon, and I've been switching back and forth. It is now like super fast.
I almost want to do it right now, but then I realized I'm sharing my. Well, I don't need to do it. I can do that now. Yeah,
you could, and all you'll do is hang up on the screen share, and it won't matter because I'm not having your content on screen. Yes. But although I did hear the beep. So did you just shift networks?
I'm going to.
All right, so let's start the count when you've clicked. So we'll just we'll talk amongst ourselves.
They changed the UI too. All right. Yeah. Right now, click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm in. That from click.
Now think about like they had to go through the containment, the DLP, the data isolation. Like think about all the stuff that just happened when that went through. Like the authentication, the authorization layer. That was 5 seconds.
That's pretty hot, man.
All right, so if you haven't checked out organizational shift, now again, if you want to be concurrently in multiple networks, you're still better off with Browser Session Plus. Yep. They haven't poly-instantiated or multi-instantiated to Teams client, but it's much better.
For sure. And
the notifications come in, and then you can switch over. So I huge improvements in cross-network switching have landed. So I would say give those a look if you haven't recently. As far as performance, video rendering optimization, so a lot of work on that. Battery life optimization, iOS, right? Low bandwidth optimization for Android. So, given the use patterns, we're like a lot of refinement engineering work coming on. Obviously, the 49 participant. Again, back to like I've been doing a lot of volunteering lately. Helping people set up or refine their Office 365 stuff. And a lot of people don't know you have to actually go into settings and choose the checkbox for new meeting experience, because this is not the default experience. So if you want to see the 7x7, you have to go opt in. So if you haven't done that, now that will also mean your meetings will have pop-out experience. So the users need to go do that, though there is unfortunately not a policy setting you can go check that says, and that means you'll have a have and have not if everybody hasn't checked on that particular sequence. Obviously, everyone knows about Together mode on top of it, safe transfer, a couple of things on top of that, new Teams devices. Now, speaking of that, there was some nice updates to the phone. Yep. So if you are using the Teams phone, you should go check those out. If you haven't, you should understand the UI changes that are coming around.
Like your iPhone or your Android. We're talking about.
No, we're talking about the actual dedicated, Teams devices. And I got access to one of the new dedicated Teams Roomish, the tiny devices, like the
nice.
The one from Lenovo.
Yeah.
That I set up at one of the nonprofits, and it's really slick. So if you have not played around with these,
is that one more like the companion device where you're actually running the meeting on the thing?
Well, companions I haven't seen yet. I know other people have. I haven't. But this is a dedicated, like you just give it a Wi-Fi connection, and it's Teams. Like it's a small huddle room Teams device.
Okay.
And it also does have Bluetooth pairing, so you can pair it to Bluetooth devices. It's really cool. So I've talked about these. I pointed at the things, but I've never gotten hands-on with one. So I guess here's my call to action. If you have access to an eval programmer on one of those things, you might want to get hands-on, because seeing it on here, I was like, oh, look, a new device. But I got hands-on with it. I'm like, this is really good. So, you know, like it would only be in certain classes of rooms, like in like a boardroom or something, but huddle room type stuff, right? Awesome. So nice work by the Teams team on top of that. Okay. We released the cyber defense threat sophistication. There's a whole white paper on the digital defense report, which apparently I've downloaded like 4 times down below, and they finally completed. So I'll try and see if I can cold open it on top of it, because I, for some reason, was under constrained bandwidth. Really, really interesting content on top of it. If you look around, like what is the focus areas, what's happening around nation state and everything else. So if you are an academic security wonk, or you're like updated statistics year over year for like breadth of signal intelligence and kind of what the big data challenge around this is. Because lest we forget, this is so funny. Someone's like, isn't it amazing how big data is being used in network security? I'm like, dude, big data came out of firewall and network log analytics, like and telecom log analytics, like all these big data mining tools, they were born for log analysis, you know what I mean? And so like if you go back to their really core roots, you know, and so now everyone's like, look how they're using big data and AI in the networking industry. I'm like, it's kind of where it came
from.
Kind of
a thing.
Yeah. So anyway, interesting, right? Like network logs, telemetry, all the rest of the stuff. So I think this is fascinating. Reading on what's happening, what best practices are, everything else. So go read. I won't scroll through the white paper because you can read it your damn self. All right.
Yep.
So, and there's a download link, and we got it in the show notes, so go check that one out.
Love it.
One more Teams thing. They announced the home site application, but then they dropped a blog post for Teams, so you can sort of pin. Look, let's be honest. People are pinning everything into Teams. Their Teams is becoming the app launcher canvas of people for cross UI experiences for work, right? It's just, you know, so you know, somebody said, well, what about the start menu and whatever? I'm like, well, okay. I mean, people are building this for their dashboard for work, and so they announced. If you can see, like, it's kind of fuzzy, but there's like Contoso in the corner of that. So essentially, you can put your SharePoint intranet sites. They have a dedicated app now for intranet configuration, so that you can, you know, embed that in Teams. And if you think about the idea of, you've now got the Teams, chats, the intranet, and communities, and then you can pin your other business applications like Power BI and stuff over on the side on top of it. You really do have that sort of ubiquitous, integrated suite of things that you and I have been talking about for a long time. So I'm excited about
RWA in there, and you don't ever need to leave your Teams ever.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, you and I are not going to agree on that one for a while, right? I got to wait to go.
I have not done that. But
haven't you? All right. I mean, you love OA, right? So you're a huge, you know, user of the web version.
I also don't want to like taint my Teams with it.
Fair. All right. Wow. All right. Well, that's like a beverage debate right there as to how that would roll. All right, let's keep going. So I thought it was interesting, the home site application. They sort of gave, you know, like, how does it work? You know, what's going on? Communication sites designated at home sites are eligible using the default configuration flow, right? And they go through kind of some of the Q&A around this thing as to how it's going to work. I thought it was nice details provided around the announcement, which said, hey, you can be able to do this. Well, now here's kind of what it is and some details around it. We're now going to go over to my personal favorite thing. I don't know how often other people delve the SharePoint roadmap pit stop. I mean, I think one of the things you and I try and do with this show is curate, right? Yep. Is go look at all these things and listen to as much content as we can and kind of bring it together as to what do we think people should be paying attention to. Security one, I think, enlightens the context as why things are important. So I think it's important to stay academically informed. Tactically, some things are just about like new features and capabilities, but some of them kind of revisit things. So there's some cool stuff in the SharePoint roadmap for page authors. And there's also this really cool one for external guests expiring. And the settings and options that we've been talking about and we've shared before, and some of these things are getting either closer or they're in release on top of it, but it talks about like what kind of content can be shared and how you can configure expiration policies for sharing links and the rest of that kind of stuff. So if you are doing this, kudos. If you have not done it or you haven't thought about it, you know, for where you're at in feature release cycle, it's time to go take a serious look at that external sharing content expiration on top of it for where it has on top of it. And then they talk about we showed this last week, the search meta thing we did on top of it. Teamwork updates across SharePoint, right? SharePoint sites are getting the new create site experience on top of it, which is kind of that new card-driven UI, which is nice. Microsoft Lists got a calendar view. I don't know if you'd seen.
Nice. Well, I had not seen that.
Yeah, right. So coming on top of that, Lists also in the gallery view. So if you so some new, card-oriented and coming up on top of it, some edit capability for lists, updated choice person and yes/no column experiences. I very much like these, like the color enablement, filter enablement, right? Like it's really slick on top of it. So how it looks and for the UI on top of it. And then Todd,
yes,
please look at this one. And I will pause while we read. Message Center Sync to Microsoft Planner is now generally available.
Oh my gosh, this is a dream come true for you and for really everyone.
I understand. So look, do I think you should be using the API and constructing integration to your official ServiceNow, Sharewell, your service desk tool, like whatever, insert name here of whatever hell it is you use. Yeah. Do I think you should have a business process around that, and potentially involve your change review board and all the rest of those things? Yes, 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 absolutely. However, there's something to be said for you check a box, it all goes into a planner, and you've got it.
But man, I mean, you could put Power Automate on top of that. I mean, you could do it all kinds of
I understand. And I, like I said, if you're an advanced organization, you might take a little different lens on this. But I just wanted to point out that Message Center Sync to Microsoft Planner is now generally available. And again, how are you going to fan out division of responsibility? If you're a complex matrix organization with a super sophisticated IT department, this is probably a good catch-all for you. Maybe for the dedicated service owners would have their own canvas for it. And you might want to do some of the stuff we've done whole workshops on back in the MTC. So where we really
if you're not already doing something here, do this like today. Go right now.
Now.
I mean, like after this podcast is over, don't even take a resting break. Just go turn this on.
Yeah. So they also had the reactions in Yammer that announced. I mean, it's not near as you can tell like where my interest was.
That's a weird transition. Okay.
I know, but it's in order of product, right? So and my our friend Steve Wynn would be super happy that we're continue to. There's been a lot of work in Yammer.
I didn't realize that was new, actually. I mean, because I'm sure I've done this in Yammer, and I didn't realize. You just kind of take it for granted. It's
the reactions are now on Yammer on top of it. So they also talked about, hey, one thing I had missed. Had you seen that the obviously we talked about stream announcements, right, for coming to it, but I had missed the offline mode for lists.
No, I've not seen that.
Yeah. So and I've been playing with News Boost and everything else we've been, doing all sorts of cool stuff with. And I had some fun stuff with that News Boost when we're released in October. We're going to re-release a new version of the COM solution we built, the corporate communications news generation solution to GitHub, using connection references and best practices and all sorts of stuff around that.
Very cool.
And the integration there for News Boost, and we add some workflow stuff too. So like you can return, an approver can return the content back to the editor for draft. You've been probably seeing this in the MTC as you've been seeing some of those advancements hit your customer story contents, right?
Curious. So, and by the way, like I don't put you on the spot, so maybe we don't know all the details. But like offline lists, I'm assuming that's for mobile. Is that?
Well, let's.
And like, what can I do? Like, can I?
We have 60 seconds left. Let's just look at it with the audience and absorb it all over, right?
Take your list offline, baby.
Yeah, we received a lot of feedback. I bet they have, right?
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. Well, I'm definitely going to be. I know what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing some homework on this because this is going to be again one of those things like Power Automate where it's just going to become like so ubiquitous. And because you got to have lists of things, right?
The same underlying will power offline lists will also power the experience when you're connected. Project Nucleus. Love it.
Okay, nice.
It's got a code name. It must be cool.
Nucleus. That sounds serious.
Cool. I know. I just, you got to have a nucleus.
You do.
Okay. I had missed that announcement at Ignite. I'm sure somebody else caught it. I was actually looking up for announcements around To Do, which really I should be over here anyway, right? Because they're all mashing up. So we're at 11 o'clock in the central time zone of the United States. So that I'm out of announcements too. So that was like really well timed. Do we have any other questions or?
Actually, yeah. So Jason's like, where's the Outlook app for Teams? you know, I could see that. I mean, I think that's reasonable ask. Message Center sync to Planner is dreamy. I agree, Michelle.
It is dreamy, right? So and again, now it's in Planner, so then you can use the citizen development orchestration tools for that. I don't see any reason.
Michelle, that's like a good shirt. Like, I don't know. It's dreamy. That's awesome. I'd wear that shirt.
Okay, so that is a Flash Friday. I think certainly when I release it to GitHub, we'll go through the COM solution again and kind of cover it on a special show, or we'll do a second show and post it or something like that, because it's a pretty big solution now. Yeah. But it's very powerful.
Well, let me ask you, since it's in GitHub, are you going to move to putting some GitHub actions and maybe making that?
Yeah, it's actually to the point now where I feel comfortable that we've rationalized it enough where the community could contribute to it. Like before, it was too Frankenstein-y, you know? Like we had some of the examples and the pieces out there and say, hey, here's how we built those pieces. Now with connection references and everything else, I feel like we could actually publish it and the community could contribute.
It's some pull requests.
Yeah, and we broke away from what I called the Frankenflow, which is one monster flow into separate components that one could update. And so the challenge has been some of the list generation and standard taxonomy. So people could contribute certainly to also the provisioning side of it. So yeah, I mean, it'll be probably 2 to 3 weeks from now before I will have spun up enough.
Awesome, man. Can't wait
It's not. This is like a pet project on the side. This is not like my job anymore, right?
Oh, I get it. Makes sense.
But I still want to get it done. I got other people helping me, so we should be able to make some motion on it.
Cool, man.
That's all I got. We're over. Everyone have a fabulous and safe weekend.
Absolutely. Good talking to you, bud. We'll see you next week.
Take care, y'all.
Yeah, bye.